So there are a couple main topics going on in this segment. First of all, I'd like to mention that, as you could probably assume, Donald Trump does not have the initiative to send you any sort of mail back. Whether that be personally or some sort of like mass-produced print-off that they send. I'll give you most of you probably know what I'm talking about with that kind of thing. They probably have some sort of email or some sort of like document, form they fill off that says thank you for mailing us with your concerns, blah 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 blah. They don't even send that back. The day that I uploaded the video called The Letter was the same day that I filmed it and mailed it off. Never received a response on that. That's been a few months ago. I believe that was in April. Now that if my memory serves correctly, that was in April. It is currently, as of me filming this, September 21st. I had to check my phone on that for the date, but today is September 21st. I have sent at least a dozen more letters, and none of them have received a response. A couple of which have talked about further details. Well, actually, they've all gone into further detail, but a couple of which have asked about details in regards to Melania. If she was a prostituted to him on Jeffrey Epstein's plane, because there has been rumor and various forms of at least attempted documentation saying that the first time they interacted was on one of Epstein's planes, or on Epstein's plane. At least 2 or 3 letters have gone into questioning and declarative depth about his militant attempt to incarcerate anyone of any sort of Spaniard ethnicity, Guatemalan, Puerto Rican, Latino, Mexican, and trying to get rid of them. And I've asked him a couple times about the whole rumor in regards to people of these ethnicities being shackled up on planes and the dead bodies that have been found off the coast of Florida, etc. No response. I've asked him about the what kind of example with all this historic display of malpracticed authority and power that he has, what kind of example does he think that has been setting for his son? Or any of his children, really. Because obviously he has no respect for his daughters. And what kind of examples he thinks that's been setting for his son, Barron. Trump has practiced throughout his entire life, obviously, the attitude of a spoiled child. And regardless of what happened prior to the age of 18 to 20 in Trump's life, I think a reinforcement on that was practiced by Trump's father pretty much buying him out from having to serve in the military. As far as I'm concerned, no person should be in presidency, the authority over our military, without having served at least a couple years in the military. And I think Trump has been an obvious malpractice of that authority, partially because of that. At one point I mentioned that his family came over. He has Irish roots. family came over to supposedly get away from oppression. And yet he has been practicing oppression tenfold in regards to the Hispanic communities, the Guatemalan communities, sending them to Alligator Alcatraz, going out of his way to act like he's hunting down rats in the basement. Many of which have involved false arrests. The list goes on. He does not send letters back. He does not mail back. Now, there's a video I came across yesterday, September 20th. And it had already been online for 3 days. It was shared by it was uploaded by a channel called Led by Donkeys. And I'm pretty sure it's obviously a Democratic-led page. About 90% sure. I'd heard the name somewhere before, Led by Donkeys, but I hadn't done much research on them, to be honest with you. But they had shared a video. It's about a little over 9 minutes. And it was over in the UK, and on this castle wall was projected a video whenever Trump met with those other CEOs and politicians and everybody at that big dinner. There's been some video and whatnot circulating the internet lately. At the castle owned by the royal family, there was this video projected onto the wall in regards to Trump's association with Epstein. It was stuff that we'd all heard before. It was stuff that hadn't really gone into depth much. But they were in the video. It was like a short little documentary, whatever they had made, and projected it on the wall. And at the end of it, we're saying, and Trump is staying here tonight. So what I did is I screen recorded that video. It's about 9 minutes roughly. And I'm going to go ahead and show that to you. And then we're going to be getting on with this show.
This is Windsor Castle, home of the British royal family, where Donald Trump is staying during his state visit. And this is a film about Trump's relationship with the world's most famous pedophile, Jeffrey Epstein. Their friendship goes back to at least 1992, when the two of them are filmed laughing together. Trump can be seen making friendly conversation with Epstein in between clips of Trump smiling and dancing with a group of young women at his Mar-a-Lago resort in Florida. The following year, they attend a cafe opening together. And a month after that, Trump invites Epstein to his wedding. In 1995, a young woman called Maria Farmer is working for Epstein in Manhattan. Late one night, she says, Epstein unexpectedly calls her to his offices, and she arrives in running shorts. Donald Trump then turns up, wearing a business suit, and starts to hover over her. Ms. Farmer feels scared as Trump stares at her bare legs. Then Epstein enters the room, and she recalls him saying to Trump, "No, she's not here for you." The two men then leave the room, and Ms. Farmer says she heard Trump commenting that he thought Ms. Farmer was 16 years old. She says she later reported the incident to the authorities. Trump denies he was ever in Epstein's office. 1993 to 1997, Trump takes at least 8 flights on Epstein's private jet, according to flight logs released by the U.S. Department of Justice. The plane is later dubbed the Lolita Express, a reference to the character in the Nabokov novel by the same name, a 12-year-old child who is sexually abused by an older man. 1997. Trump and Epstein are seen together at 2 Victoria's Secret parties and are photographed together at Mar-a-Lago. The same year, Trump gifts a book to Epstein with the dedication, "To Jeff, you are the greatest, Donald." 2000. A 16-year-old girl, Virginia Giuffre, is working in the spa at Trump's Mar-a-Lago resort. There, she is recruited by Epstein's accomplice, Ghislaine Maxwell, to work as a personal masseuse for Epstein. The teenager will soon become, in her words, a teen sex slave and will endure years of sexual abuse.
I was recruited at a very young age from Mar-a-Lago and entrapped in a world that I didn't understand.
25 years later, Trump will acknowledge he was aware that young women were being recruited from Mar-a-Lago by Epstein.
Were some of them young women? Well, I don't want to say, but everyone knows the people that were taken. And it was the concept of taking people that work for me is bad. But that story's been pretty well out there. And the answer is yes, they were.
Trump is then asked if one of them was Virginia Giuffre.
I think she worked at the spa. I think so. I think that was one of the people. Yeah. He stole her.
2 years later, after Giuffre was recruited from his club by Epstein and Maxwell, Trump tells New York Magazine he thinks that Epstein is a, quote, terrific guy, and that they have known each other for 15 years. He's a lot of fun to be with, Trump says. It is even said that he likes beautiful women as much as I do, and many of them are on the younger side. 2003. Trump draws a message in a book made for Epstein's 50th birthday. The drawing depicts a woman's breasts and is accompanied by text written by Trump to Epstein that includes the line, quote, "We have certain things in common, Jeffrey," end quote. Trump signs off by saying, quote, "Happy birthday, and may every day be another wonderful secret." A Donald signature is written in the place of pubic hair. 22 years later, Trump will begin legal action against the Wall Street Journal over their reporting of the drawing, claiming it doesn't exist. Epstein's estate then releases the drawing to Congress. Another entry in the birthday book contains a photo of Epstein holding a novelty check bearing Donald Trump's signature, along with a note suggesting Epstein, quote-unquote, sold Trump a woman for $22,500. It's unclear if the photo and accompanying note is a joke or not. 2004. The two men fall out, and their close relationship ends. The reason for their estrangement? They both tried to buy the same Palm Beach mansion. 2005. Police in Palm Beach begin investigating Epstein after a 14-year-old child reports he molested her at his mansion. 2008. Epstein pleads guilty to state charges in Florida, including procuring a child for prostitution and solicitation of prostitution. The sweetheart plea deal, agreed by U.S. Attorney Alex Acosta, includes a non-prosecution agreement giving Epstein immunity from possible federal charges. He is sentenced to just 18 months in jail. Under the plea deal, Epstein is allowed to be out of jail from 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. 6 days a week and has his own driver to take him to and from his office. 2010. In a legal deposition, Epstein is asked about his relationship with Donald Trump.
Have you ever had a personal relationship with Donald Trump?
What do you mean by personal relationships?
Have you socialized with him?
Yes, sir.
Yes?
Yes, sir.
Have you ever socialized with Donald Trump in the presence of females under the age of 18?
Though I'd like to answer that question, at least today, I'm going to have to assert my 5th, 6th, and 14th Amendment rights, sir.
By the way, this was around about the time that Prince Andrew was photographed walking with Epstein in Central Park. 2016. According to award-winning CBS News producer Ira Rosen, Maxwell confirms to him that Epstein secretly taped his famous friends, including Trump and Bill Clinton. February 2017. Donald Trump, now President of the United States, nominates Alex Acosta, the man behind Epstein's sweetheart plea deal, to be his Secretary of Labor. August 2017. Epstein conducts a series of taped interviews with the journalist Michael Wolff, research for a potential book Wolff hopes to write. In the interviews, Epstein claims Trump first slept with Melania on the Lolita Express and also says he was Trump's closest friend for a decade.
So how do you know this?
That was closest, right?
July 2019. Epstein is arrested in New York on federal sex trafficking charges. The truth about his decades-long history of child abuse is finally being widely reported. A month later, he is found dead in his jail cell. The authorities declare his death a suicide. 2020. Maxwell is charged with federal crimes for helping recruit underage girls for Epstein and participating in the abuse herself. Trump is asked about the charges and replies,
I just wish her well, frankly. I've met her numerous times over the years, especially since I lived in Palm Beach, and I guess they lived in Palm Beach. but I wish her well.
2024. Asked about whether he would release the so-called Epstein files, information about Epstein's crimes, and potentially his famous accomplices, Trump seems unsure.
Would you declassify the 9/11 files?
Yeah,
Would you declassify JFK files?
yeah.
Would you,
I did a lot of it.
Would you declassify the Epstein files?
Yeah, I would.
All right.
I guess I would. I think that less so because, you don't know. You don't want to affect people's lives if it's phony stuff in there because there's a lot of phony stuff with that whole world.
2025. Trump is now president again, and his administration blocks release of the Epstein files. It is soon revealed that his Attorney General, Pam Bondi, told Trump in May that his name is in the files before authorizing the release of a handful of transcripts only. Trump's one-time personal lawyer, now Deputy Attorney General Todd Blanche, then meets Ghislaine Maxwell in prison for 9 hours. Amid speculation of a quid pro quo to protect Trump, days later, Maxwell is moved to a low-security prison famous for its comfortable conditions and known as Club Fed. This is what we know. The President of the United States was a longtime close friend of America's most notorious child sex trafficker. He's alleged to be mentioned numerous times in the files arising from the investigation into that child sex trafficker. And now he is back in office. The U.S. federal government appears to be doing all it can to prevent the American public from learning fully about the president's relationship with the country's most notorious child sex trafficker. Now that president, Donald Trump, is sleeping here in Windsor Castle.
If anyone has any information on what they did with all the people they took to Alligator Alcatraz, I would like to know. I would like, from what I understand, most of these incarceration units, most of these things, from what I had heard, most of the people incarcerated there were males. If there is any truth that they were shackling people on planes and dumping them into the ocean, I saw 3 or 4 videos, not of them dumping bodies, but of them having these shackled people go up on planes when that was, word of that was going around. And from what I saw, and from what I heard, most of them are males, but there were some females included too. There were females at Alligator. But what were they doing with the children? Were they putting them in these incarceration units also? Were they putting them in orphanages? Were they holding them at separate incarceration centers, detention centers? Were they sending them back to other family in the country of origin? What were they doing with the children? I want to know about that. If you have any information on that, please share it with me. Accurate information, because there's 100,000 people out there doing 100,000 different stories, I'm sure. And it's majority those numbers are exaggerated, obviously, but there's a lot of what people will share on that kind of thing are opinion based, or they're rumors based off of rumor kind of shit. What were they doing with the children? Was Trump or any of these other sex trafficking organizations, did they have anything to do with these children? Did they get a hold of any of these children? What was happening to the women and children? The women were there were some cases in which I heard about the women being incarcerated also. But what was happening with the children? That's the biggest thing I want to know. And what did they do with all the people that were incarcerated unjustly, inhumanely, in Alligator Alcatraz? I don't want people to get me wrong. I'm not trying to make this a Democrat or Republican thing. If it was a Democrat in office that had the same positions and accusations as Trump, I would be going after them regardless. This is not a Democrat versus Republican situation. I hate them both equally because they're both at fault for many of the same horrific situations. They're both involved with a lot of the horrible things and shit things that are going on in our country, both economically and to the people. But the fact is that Trump is the one in the position while all this is going on currently. He's the one trying to promote it. What happened to all the people that were incarcerated in Alligator Alcatraz? I want to know that. And let me ask you this. The Kirk guy. Why the fuck was he a big enough of a deal to Trump in any of the political statement to put flags at half-mast? You can say whatever you want about how he was killed, how he died, and all that, but why was he an exception to the rule of being put on a platform to have flags at half-mast? Let me say this too. I know that some of y'all out there, and I support you 100%, have the abilities to hack certain websites. I know there are some of y'all that are not feds, that don't work for the CIA, don't work for the FBI, that have the ability to hack certain files and websites. Our current political structure is not going to provide the proper Epstein files or any sort of trafficking files that have the names that we know are on them. There are more files, deeper files, and we need those files out. And I don't want any of that marked out name bullshit. I want full, uncut, deep dive, the raw files out. Open. If you can do that and prove it, I will pay you personally to do so.